in loving tribute to Steve Arnold's Tom's Power. I knew I was going to stutter over that because I'm halfway crying already. Bella Vista, in the end, is about fatherhood, about fathers and sons. It's about one father, Frank Kershaw. How he went from a dope-smoking car aficionado to a businessman. About how this businessman hatched a scheme to pry his son, Jay, away from his mom, who was developing a habit of drugs and staying out late, and generally being out of it most of the time. And how that father convinced his son to move down to Florida. And I'll let Adam tell you more about it. So here's some introductions. Adam Strong is a high school visual arts teacher, a multimedia artist, and a novelist. His novel, Bella Vista, was released on March 3rd. He is the founder of Songbook PDX. He lives in PDX with his wife and children. Please join me in welcoming Adam. And joining him tonight is Gudger in conversation. Anne is a Portland writer who loves language and space on the page. She writes about love and loss and how we get from there to here. She's fascinated with the heart and its metaphorical fifth chamber that holds more love, that holds shadows. She's been published in Newsweek, Real Simple Magazine, The Rumpus, Slippery Elm, Mail Magazine, Entropy, Tupelo Press, Atticus Review, The Timberline Review, Columbia Journal, Sweet Lit, Cafe, Cutthroat, The Normal School, The Los Angeles Review, and elsewhere. It's been said that Anne hates books and has since she first decoded words. Her debut memoir, The Fifth Chamber, was published in September 2023 with Jadavis Press. Kirkus Review called The Fifth Chamber an emotionally riveting memoir, raw and inspiring. And I would have to agree. Please join me in welcoming Anne Gudger.
So Anna, hey, hi, thank you. I'm so happy you're here. I so appreciate you asking me to do this. Right? Like, I love this person. I love this book. I do this about time. I love that we fly Steve with us. He's always with us. All of us. And that's actually joking, like we didn't practice, but I just want to say that this is such a beautiful coming of age book. I love when I got to read it. I especially love when I got to reread it because I just got to like read it and see all the so many yummy things that you did with the language and the images and just how you constructed your story. So do you want to do yours? First, you want to read yours.
Right. Well, I think if we're going to go that way, I think we should. If I was going to read first, which I think is a great idea, I think we keep that. But I think the only way to really bring in the Tom Spam biography is to have the person that was right across the table from me at Tom's table read it.
Okay.
How does that sound?
That sounds great.
So, Gigi Little, like, have a bite of food, like, take your time, have a sip of wine if you need to. But yeah, come on up and read the opening chapter of Bella Vista.
Do you want me to bring a second microphone?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, you got it. So, where's the right thing up?
Freestyle.
I was going to grab a second. I was going to grab a second. Oh, yes, okay, because I mean, if you've got a purple one, I've got a yellow one.
All right.
Or green one.
It's the changing of the microphone covers. So, new post-COVID
It is like
tradition.
one of those, like, things, those red hat things. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, let's turn off the other one. Yeah.
So I jinxed us by saying that we were done with technical difficulties. Well, that's wrong. Okay.
Right.
Oh, hi. This is the opening of the book. As for why I left, why I chose Dad, if I ever did, it was more like the forces of foreign language and drugs and one guy putting his needs over the rest of the family, money and the shit that comes from the ardent pursuit of it. Whatever combination of mom and dad and here and not here, at the end of the day, at least dad put in an offer. I used to look forward to dad coming home. From about 1970 to 1977, dad would go into his office when he got home from work. The slam of the door, the poster on it, was of a small spacecraft returning to its mothership. Underneath the mothership, written in solid gold, were the words Electric Light Orchestra. Then there was some intergalactic sounding keyboard and a string section, Electric Light Orchestra in Sight and Sound. He turned up the stereo. Then would come the barely there sound of water bubbling, and the smell coming from the other side of the closed door was that of a skunk waltzing through the halls. Afterwards, when the door opened and Dad slid out, his eyes were all red, and when he spoke, his voice was one octave lower. My dad was Stoner. Afternoons for us were Dad not looking for a job and me helping. Helping meant Dad lifting me up and onto his lap. We'd watch TV together. Meanwhile, Mom was living on grants to pay our rent while she was up in her studio painting weird line pictures. Every couple of hours, I'd get up and get Dad a beer. In the evenings, Dad cooked, and Mom would complain about how Dad still didn't have a job. She'd say some version of, "When are you going to get your shit together, Frank?" Dad's body was this huge thing next to mine. Dad and his big muscles made me feel like he could kick anyone's ass that tried to mess with me. Dad and I, we palled around together. That's what he called me, his pal. And then Dad finally finished up that engineering degree. It took 3 schools and 2 transfers to finish. He cut his hair short. He switched from weed to scotch. He started wearing ties. He grew a beard to cover his face. He got a promotion. Then second, then another job in middle management, which paid well enough to live in Park Slope and have a kid and a wife who could make art and take care of his son. Dad got this idea in his head that if he could do this, could make more out of his life than he had, that anyone could do this, especially me. Which meant everything in the house got real tiny real quick. No more garage, no more neon glow of the Electric Light Orchestra. Meant more rules, meant amendments to existing rules to incorporate the new rules that were just made. The bigger people thought of him at work, the more uptight he became, started to believe his own bullshit. The older I got, the more I lived under his thumb, with Dad scanning my every move. And my every move was wrong. I had a house, and I had food, and I had heat, but I had a father who squashed me under his watchful eye. There's a word for a life lived like that, stifled. Not able to breathe, every motion analyzed, and dispatched with swift judgment. To see Dad with his slacks and short hair was to deny that there ever was a time when Dad sat around drawing logos for businesses and got paid well for it, was able to stay home all day drawing logos for businesses, pal around with me, and got stoned when he had long hair, when he didn't take himself so seriously. That's what he used to say to Mom, "Linda, you need to not take things so seriously." Back then, Linda, my mom, called him the dirty hippie. Mom was a painter, and for a few years, Dad was the fuck up. Those early years, me and Dad driving with the top down of his lime green Carmen Dia when we drove over the bridge into Manhattan, the color of the sky, and all those cars moving in one long river of highway. Dad's face, his big sunglasses, his long hair blowing around his face, the smile that peeked out from all that hair. "This world is yours, kid," he said. "It's all for you." That memory was the kind of thing I'd forget in a few years later when he was telling me how I was too goddamn lazy to do anything right. And sometimes, in the middle of one of his tirades, I had this weird moment of clarity where I could see how what he was saying to me in the present would affect me in the future. When I was an adult, I couldn't see criticism as anything less than an attack on the blood and bone of who I was. But there were a few years before he set up an electrical system in me that could be called upon and shocked, so that just by looking at me, he could increase my blood pressure, send messages from my brain to my heart, make my palms sweat, even mess with my ability to speak. And sure, some people say they can't blame their fathers forever, but how could I not when he installed the goddamn electrical system in my nerve endings? I was just a kid. I only saw what was in front of me. My whole world was the songs I played in my head and the adventure stories I told myself, because by escaping I just didn't have to deal. So this world I built up It was from the soft, comforting cues of figuring out how, on my favorite TV show, The Monkees, a group of 4 men could play psychedelic rock and animated cartoon at the same time, because if I could do that, then I wouldn't have to live with someone analyzing my every breath, and I wouldn't have to live under his thumb, his rules. I wouldn't have to think about how Dad changed from a fun-loving stoner to a guy who sat in his desk chair in his office with all the lights off and talked engineering schematics into a tape recorder. If I paid attention to sci-fi stories and comic books, I wouldn't have to think about how the older I got, the more I was noticing the presence of death, how no matter how good things got, in the end, you died. And I saw it in everything, in the sky on a cloudy day, to look in Mom's eyes when she was working on one of her paintings. Behind all of this was the idea that everything we did eventually led to the ground. What I saw as soon as I was cognizant of it was a step-by-step decay of all things. I don't know if it was some sort of OCD, ADHD, hyper diagnosis that never came, but it allowed me 24-hour access to the detailed ways in which all the things were in the process of decaying. I never thought I'd be able to leave all that hurt behind, her dad changing, never going back, for tricking me into hiding the tapes, for leading me down to Miami, and then taking off, and the lies, and the lies, and the lies. And with all of this, at the end of it, I couldn't believe I did it. The one thing I thought for years I'd never be able to do, what I finally did in the end, which was to forgive him. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's such like those.
Okay, right.
I'm done?
Yes.
Okay. So I thank you, Gigi, for reading. I love how Adam is doing this. I really thought, wow, this is helpful. I love that this is a community, right? Because that really is how we write, and it really is how we wrote this book. And I love that we have so many people here who sat at the table with you while you were writing, and that just adds a whole other level of meaning and love to this. So, could you talk about that a little bit, and for people who don't know what's more?
About the community.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. So I first became a part of this whole thing. I had just started teaching at Heritage High School, actually, and this is like the Heritage High School thing. We called the Adams Building before the Adams Building didn't exist a little bit. No, so I was a high school teacher, and I attended Wordstock because I'd always wanted to do with writing. And I saw that this guy Tom Sandauer was there, and started reading about dangerous writing. I was like, just that name was really, piqued my interest. So I went down to this place. It was in Wordstock, and you could sign up, and there were about 100 people in the room. It seemed like that's what very close to me. And he said, okay, write to this prompt, which was the moment after you were different. And so I wrote it, and I read it aloud in front of like 100 people. And he was on the other side of the room, but he was staring at me, like listening intently. And the way he critiqued it and the way he handled all of that, I felt like seen, taken care of, and then he handled the whole literary thing like no one had ever heard of it before. And I said, how can get that all once a week? And he's like, come to my house. I said, what? Come to your house. Yeah, here's my address. And I knew that the basement was where it all went down. Because Chuck Palahniuk had something written on his website about it. And I was like, it was very intriguing. And I walked downstairs, and there were like 2 or 3 of you that are here tonight, were there that night, reading pages for 5 hours at a time on Thursdays. And it was at Tom Spanbauer's house, and they were glass penises and nuns and odes to Catholicism and portraits of Jesse Helms that said holy homophobia, and a shotgun lithograph portrait that said Hemingway was a writer with a cock gun. There was so much good stuff in that basement. There was a little pin I saw that had a typewriter and spelling that said write hard, die free, and then this guy, Steve, would be hopping and bopping around. He'd be there for the first but the first half, and then go to Stephen and Joanna for the second half, or was it the other way around? He did that for years. I don't know if he told anyone he did that, but he was like, you gotta keep that quiet.
Exactly.
So I did.
So you
Um,
did 30 minutes.
no, so that was 2006. And I just started at Heritage, and yeah, so I started going to Tom's group, and then everybody else that I've met throughout has been a part of that core moment of meeting Tom Spandauer, meeting someone that just whose mind and heart just blows you away. So that's how I got
Well, I love that you brought everybody with you.
here.
Right?
Absolutely,
That's-
yeah. Felt like the only way.
Okay, you told me that that was is about who I didn't want to be. Can you
Yeah.
tell us more about that?
Yeah, so the father character is like my father, but also not like my father. But I didn't want to be someone, so at the time that I started writing this book, I had a 2-year-old and like a newborn.
And how old are your girls now?
They are 17 and 15 now. So yeah, one is about to, finish high school and move on, and the other is still in high school. But yeah, so at the time I was terrified of being a father because I just thought that meant the death. Like, I'd been cool, creative, fun pursuit at the time. And so I was scared, and so I wrote about my own father trauma because I had all this hate for my dad that was really weighing me down. And I kind of excised that hatred by writing stuff. And then he did some work too. So there was a
Your
moment,
dad did something too.
there was a moment where I started telling him one of the scenes that was in the book, and he hadn't read it. And all I had to do was talk about what the father and the son were doing, like real summary and stuff. And he started crying, and he said, I was a really shit father. I'm really sorry. And I was like, and I couldn't believe that a man of his generation could do something like that, And it just completely, my heart melts it. It healed a lot. So between the work my dad did, because I got to give props for that, and the writing of this book, it really it made that go away, which made me a parent that wasn't terrified of turning my father. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And you were still a young parent, right? You have to,
A young parent, high school, digital arts.
yes, so you got those things too.
And what's crazy is these guys were the people that I was seeing on those days when I would go in after Tom's class. Well, this was y'all graduated in what? 13? Oh, you graduated from a long time ago.
I was in your class 6 years.
Yeah. So, okay, it was a few years after, but it was still around there. Yeah.
I was really struck by how breath in your book feels like a character movie.
Yeah.
From start to finish. So if breath is life, energy, all those things, how does it play in your book?
Well, for one thing, there's a major change in atmospheric pressure when you move from Minneapolis to Miami, Florida, as we did as a family in 1980. So you can imagine Minneapolis to Miami would make anyone a bit of a fish out of water. So, but I felt like I couldn't breathe when I first sat down because everything was so heavy on your chest. It was just and then just got this dread feeling that came over that I think that's the Florida part of it all. I think, the heavy breathing is just for humidity. I didn't feel dread in New Orleans. I had a great time. It's a wonderful time in New Orleans. But in Miami specifically, yeah, definitely big that feeling. But then also there's through breath and through voice, the character learns to kind of find ways to get through life before drugs and alcohol. There are a couple before the main character starts to wrestle with some of that stuff. So yeah, I think that's, maybe that conversation for that, without being noisy.
Without being noisy.
Yeah.
So we had talked about this when I had a lovely long conversation today, and it was just fun that I thought we might be sharing. And I really asked you about that scene that I know Domi's going to be, and you putting that right next to the next scene.
Right,
Right.
the juxtaposition.
I love that. I love that we have like this emblem, this bondness. So, do you want to talk about that, or would you like
I
us
think
to read it first?
Yeah, I think we need to hear the scene through Domi, and then we'll know about breath more than we know
Definitely.
now.
Yeah.
For those that haven't read, well, you're about to read the scene, right, expert.
Yeah.
This
I could probably
is
do-
Domi Shoemaker, and what year did you join Tom's Table?
2010,
Okay. Wow, it was just around that era then.
10
Okay.
or 12. It's been.
No, 2010 makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
then I grad-
And you
yes.
were there for 3 or 4 years?
3.5 years.
Yeah, and you started Burnt Tongue there, the reading
Yeah,
series?
about 2 years in, I started Burnt Tongue.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
we had
did
this
all.
reading series that, I started out with just Burnt Tongue, just dangerous writer people. Because my heart, I am one of the only writers that I know that's a true fucking a true extrovert. And so I'm like, what do you mean you haven't read? And there's this one person I just kept saying, Mary Frances, you have to read.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and so Mary Frances was at the table, I just would see all the 10, 12, 20 people at the table, and maybe 5 or 10 of them that ever read in public. And they've been working in their books 5, 10, 12 years. And I'm like, man, I really want to get these, someone offered for me to read somewhere, and I just loved it so much. So I was like, okay, so I read with Lydia the first time.
Right.
Yeah. And Jenny Forrester when they did.
Oh, when they did the Unchased reading series? Yeah,
That was my first reading. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and then I got a piece published with Roxane Gay, and just sort of stumbled into all that shit,
Right, totally.
Yeah, and so I really want to try to get other people on stage and have people, and that's been my life since then. My
Right.
entire thing is getting people that have experience and working with people who don't have much experience, and helping them learn from each other and get their work out there and get their voices heard. Because there's so many stories that need to be heard.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so there's that.
Amen.
And now I work at corporeal writing, been there for 10 years. Yeah, so I'll take the mic. I was gonna say, I can just read. I can't probably, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Would the mic be helpful?
Mike will be good.
Okay.
Do you have one over there?
I don't have a mic.
Oh, okay.
But I do. Is this yours, Adam? Oh, that's Gigi's.
That's Gigi. Gotta write our names kind of like wine charms.
Is that a card?
I know.
I'm going to say it. All right. And so when Adam agreed to let me read, when I was like, oh my God, I would love to do that. I was like, I know what section I want. I want this section. I'm not sure what this, so I'll start reading. But this is the section I wanted, and I got it, so. I think the only thing you need to know is that the character had moved to, never mind.
Jay is his.
Jay, yes.
Oh, nice. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. Down here, wow. Down here with the weightless feeling of my organs being contained in my body. I saw something that on the first day, something that looked like a window on the side of the deep end of the pool. My breath was almost running out. I pushed up, and there was a burn in my lungs before I reached the surface. I opened my mouth. I breathed in every molecule. I headed back down. My arms pushed the water around me closer to the deep end. My eyes stung a bit from the chlorine. I swam closer. There was a window cut into the side of the pool about halfway up the wall. Something to be seen on the other side of the window. The shrinking space of air in my chest
open space and shadows, a room underneath the pool. The house was still so new to me, I didn't know where I was going, but I had to get there. I drank water through the kitchen and down the stairwell. I wandered through a few rooms. I saw what could be my inn, a wall with a long cut down the front, a closet latched by a wooden handle. I slid the wedding ring, he grabbed his mother's wedding ring. I slid the wedding ring onto my fattest finger, and Mom, if you would have seen me put my weight behind that little door, if only you could have been there. The cracks of blue light opening bigger, me in a bath of blue light in the middle of all that dark. A gravel path with stones to step on, and the back of the room was the window. Thick head chlorine smell, humidity. Me in the window and all that blue light that never stopped moving, Caribbean ocean perfect. Like if you took every aquarium you ever saw and added a heavy doses of vacation brochures, even a whale nature program or two, you still wouldn't have come close. There was something holy in there. Next to the window, the pool pump with its handles and the tubes. Mom, if you could have seen me with the sorbets of gravel down to my knees, bathed in that blue, your eyes were seeing me as only you did, filling in all the dark places, plenty of light for you to lead me in. There was so much blue in this little space that the room couldn't hold it all in. The light from that window was warm on my face, bubbles and yellow from the sun up there, mixed in with that blue. Down there, time stopped. Down here, time stopped. Down here, I was alive in a place just for me, a secret, a sanctuary. There was a deep hum sound that I could feel in my chest, a hum that was probably the pool pump turning on. There were clear PVC tubes just above my head, and they started to shake. The hissing sound and the clear tubes got filled with water, yellow streaks, and all that blue, sunshine and ocean. As loud as the pool pump hum was, there was something soothing about it, a breath, a sound that filled up my ears and my throat. The pool pump hum bending me inside and out, the same rhythm as waves, the breath I could breathe with. With the blue in front of me, the pool pump breathing for me, and the tubes of liquid sunshine beamed above me, my breath was pumped through the window, my breath was pumped through with chlorine light. Through this window, I saw how much my life could change. That it's all in the wanting to. An hour ago, my face looked like it was dipped in ash. But there I was, breathing in sunshine and ocean, and every second was full of a kind of being a little kid wonder I thought I lost when I moved down to Miami. This room, my chapel, my secret. When the shit got too much, I could come down here with sunshine and ocean, with pool pump breathing for me. I can live on dollars with hardly their dad. I can live a life past the marriage. Thank you. If I sat in between Doug and Brad, I thought, wow, Brad was a dude. I mean, I sat with Doug and Adam, and I remember you writing this and coming in and like, oh, check this out, I got this piece right, and this is that blue, that breath. I just could never forget that. So thank you for writing this, and I'm so freaking proud of you. I've never met a hard-working writer who had so many things to do, a brand new parent, kept going at it and going at it. I'm so freaking proud of you. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say something. That scene, from the time you brought it in, was the most intriguing scene of all the stuff you brought in to me, personally. Just so incredible. That's all. Just thank you. And you still got
That was your comment that I was hearing? Because Doug always had the most things to say about the physical nature of it. Like what angle the light is hitting. It's like, I don't quite buy it. I don't think you can see that if you're up and under and all that. You could not, so.
That's what I do in my current writing group. We have what are called Doug Chase notes. That's exactly that. But it's such an incredible scene. Yeah, it's so intriguing. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And great job reading it, Domi. It was so cool to hear your voice read it. It was great.
Yeah,
That's fun, thank you.
Thank you.
it is. It's probably my favorite scene in the book. So it's just so beautiful to hear. But I just, if you would for a moment, like tell people who haven't read the book yet what comes next. Because I just was very intrigued by your decision to put that right next to the scene that comes afterwards.
I'm blocking my wife.
Oh, it comes after, sorry. It comes afterwards, the city's name.
What page is that? Sure.
It's in the back seat because people have to buy a big amount.
Oh, yeah, okay. Right. So, the next scene, he spends time in the sanctuary, and then, so Cliff is the limo driver. So, hold on, wait a second. Hot smoking dad, switches to scotch, becomes successful in business, middle management, if you will. How do we get from there to there? Well, the father kind of has this vision, this scheme of Bella Vista, and involves moving down to Miami with this pool and a tennis court, and kind of seduces the son into getting him to hide these foreign language tapes. There are 12 of them. And he has to hide them so that his mother doesn't know that he has this complaint. Because the mom's art career is just starting to take off, even though she's really making the yards getting further and further apart from the son and from the husband. So they move down to Miami after the wife kind of goes in her direction, and the husband and the kid Jay, Frank and Jay, move down to Miami and they drive down. And Cliff, who's the limo driver, the first day they arrive, this limo driver shows up and he says, Cliff is going to be taking care of you for a while. And then the whole way down, he was like, I'm not going to be like your mother was on drugs, I'm going to be a responsible parent. And as soon as they get there, it's, so Gen X metaphor, that whole thing. So Cliff really ends up kind of raising him, and he's raised by people that have like flee in the middle of the night from like African countries or Central American countries, and one is a prostitute, and one is a heroin addict who rents the limo to shoot up heroin. And that's right after the police. I think it's like that. You wanted me to bring up why the justice was.
Yeah.
I suppose because one of the coping mechanisms of finding breath and really Jay finding his voice is that he needs those moments because he finds himself in these things where he's just confronted with things that are in reality that children shouldn't be confronted with. This is exactly what he's seeing, especially because his mother is just in her own world of drugs, not as far as heroin. So, and it's kind of this ghostly figure, and we get to kind of see mother, but the heroin addict isn't just a horror show and a nightmare. She's actually a really beautiful, warm person who's great and has a terrific outlook on things. So that's a little bit about what follows next.
I love that you put them together, right? And I know you wrote this book so carefully. I know that was a choice. That wasn't just like.
Or I think there was a lot cut.
Or Doug said, "Wait, I
So-
think this goes out."
Yeah, it was all Doug.
I love your voice, your reflections. We talked about this stuff too, and how your body beats. It's so beautiful. When you talk about how you stayed in your kid point of view while reflecting, was it challenging? I mean, it feels like the flow is seamless, but I know that's going to be hard work. I know.
Yeah.
That's why I had to say that.
There was a lot of, there's no way he can know this. It's 12-year-old boy. How does he? Yeah, so there was a lot of writing. And what I learned about was, at first, when you think you have to rewrite a scene, it's like, oh my God, my world is over, I have to rewrite this scene again. And it does, it's not the greatest thing to do, but when you do it and you go over it again, you realize I don't need to hold on to the previous draft. I can start fresh. And if I work on it long enough of that stuff that I loved from the first will carry over, but without all the other excess baggage and stuff that gets in the way or obfuscates or dilutes your meaning, you know? So we stopped. But staying in the kid voice was fairly easy because I teach high school for a living, so I am kind of a kid voice. You know, summers I start to kind of become like normal acid adult or whatever. And then in September it just gets changed all over again. If you see me in June, I'm kind of like yeah.
What can you tell us? What surprised you, either in the writing or any aspect of it? Is there something when I asked you that kind of jumps out to you?
There's lots of sentimental moments I remember about Florida that I really do love and enjoy, mixed in with a profound hatred I have for the state. In general, you know, I kind of vowed never to go again. Like the last time I was like on a flight, you know, both of us in tears, like not doing that again, like that kind of a thing. So yeah, and now my whole family lives in Tennessee, so I don't have to go back to Florida anymore. So yeah, so far so good. But yeah, no, there's things like, and it's a scene. Well, I was supposed to read that scene.
Perfect.
So maybe I'll read a scene. But it's the one where he's talking about his origin story. Is it 156? Oh yeah, very much. Thank you. Okay, so a lot of this book is inside the limo. And the limo is definitely a character. It's a 1978 Fleetwood limo. And at the same time that I was writing this book, Brad Rosen was writing his book, The Monkey Spills, and it was taking place in a VW van. So some nights it would be VW van and 1978 Fleetwood.
What's that?
I think it wants me to read.
I feel like we're underwater now. He's the cult of okay. What's the limo's name?
Oh. Can you check 1, 2? 1, 2? Yeah, that's not a good number. Yeah, thanks. Howard, appreciate it. The limo's name, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Is Bonnie. Why Bonnie?
My body.
As Cliff says, because she purrs like that. I don't know what that means. Well, I do, but I'm not going to tell you. You have to find out. Seriously. So inside this limousine, Cliff likes to smoke Swisher Sweets. So there's usually the pungent odor of Swisher Sweets and marinara meatball subs. And just those two things on repeat. Not a lot of water. Hydration is not important to people in the early 80s, I suppose. So they stop because, you know, when Cliff works, he gets hired by unscrupulous people and they work all night. So they stay out till 2 or 3 in the morning. Cliff drops off Jay and he goes to school or something. But this is a night where it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and they stop for Miami subs. Because there used to be a chain. You know, you want to talk what surprised me? Why I have an affinity for this place? I don't know. The walls inside Miami subs were covered in blue Hawaiian shirt patterns. There were ceiling fans going, and they gave off a light hum in the otherwise silent restaurant. We took one of the booths by the window so Cliff could see the Fleetwood. We ordered 2 large meatball parm specials, 2 Cokes. All my day's nutritional allowance can be fulfilled by eating one of these little jewels, Cliff said, unless I'm running. He started telling me about how some nights he'd end up at a place where all the limo drivers get free catered meals. Cliff would take the client to one of these big steakhouses like La Fortuna. He'd pull up to the place. He'd park in the back with the rest of the limo drivers. The owner would step out, he'd see all the drivers, and he'd greet them in the parking lot. Cliff leaned into me, his head was down below his shoulders. It's kind of a beautiful thing, he said. The owner walked out, saw us sitting there, forked out all these little to-go boxes. The kitchen staff filled them with steaks on the house, even brought out some mashed potatoes and onion rings. Big bullshit meat, Cliff said. They'd sit behind the wheel, listen to all-night talk radio, and smoke cigarettes until their clients were done whining and dining. Not a bad way to spend the evening, Cliff said. When it happens. Oh, yeah, there's one. Even though it was my birthday and there was no cake or even a mention of it, this guy had clearly forgotten about my whole day altogether, and yet I didn't mind the forgotten birthday. Cliff told me story after story and smoked his Swisher Sweet, so my job was to listen. Cliff ran close, his limo company. He'd taken off the black limo driver's cap. His jerry curled hair was molded to his head. He loosened his tie and unbuttoned his shirt, and I got a whiff of him. The sweat, smoke, and new carpet smelled of the jerry curls. He told me how he grew up in Brooklyn. He told me how he and Dad were from the same neighborhood, how they went to the same high school. Cliff stared out at Big Daddy's nightclub across the 4-lane road, at the limos that flooded the parking lot. From where we were, it looked like some of the drivers were eating out of little to-go boxes. You want my life story, Cliff said? Here it is. The story started with Cliff's dad, a career electrician. They used to say he lit up the streets of Manhattan with neon. Well, the years went on and Cliff got older and his dad got older, and he retired from the neon sign business and moved the contents of the family home in Park Slope down to a retirement community in Miami. 2 months later, Cliff got married and the last of their possessions went down to Miami to take care of his dad. I figured, Cliff said, there are all these old people coming down from Manhattan. They got a little money to burn, and they go from living in all that luxury up there to down here, where they're being treated, carted around by a bunch of hospital orderlies. Let me tell you, it was disgusting. These World War II guys were being driven around in stretch limos with full bar and frosted glass partitions. The cars they were driving around were practically purses. Cliff figured he could treat these old guys right, pick them up in his limo, charge a reasonable rate, and keep eating.
Thank you for reading that. I love how you show Cliff's human true. I do. And what a nice, how he is that standing for the cause for you. And really that's your
Check points. No, it's
yes. Do you talk back to you?
yeah. I think that's good. While we're waiting, I think we could have Brad read.
Something
Should we stay right here?
Yeah,
Like at the table?
exactly. But if there's a moth that flies in your lap, you don't have to eat it.
I would.
He actually ate the moth that one time. Oh, isn't that crazy? That's when the sound came on. Was when it was describing the eating of the moth. And I was not there.
What? That was up over there. So that was that.
Full legend.
That's true. I was there. Funky actually ate it. Oh, you were there?
Maybe that's why.
Brad was there.
I was there, but I might not have been there.
Okay, what's up?
I don't remember that. It was 12 years ago. It was 14 years ago.
Shut. Actually, we're Ask Ice.
What? I think when she turned down the volume again. Just found out.
This is my worst nightmare to have all those people in here when it's my favorite worker.
It's one of the friendlier groups of people here.
Yeah.
Together, looking around at everybody. Yeah.
Check. All right.
I just moved out.
Oh, Brad, you can also come up because this one's totally working. So you can take my seat and I'll take a picture.
Or I can bring the mic to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll put the mic. He's been working all day.
I work all day. I'm sleep. I got to practice safe breathing. So that's this thing on here. What now happens? Wait, it's something? Whoa.
I wonder if the battery's going out, it's flashing.
Chip.
It's on. You're good.
Huh?
There we go.
After I already breathe out. I don't know.
Did I mention there were a lot of glass penises at the table?
It was so hard to find a vagina.
glass.
Yeah, there were also, there was the,
Ceramic.
Metal.
Probably if you not knit it.
Philippines.
Oh, of course, yeah. Okay, textiles.
paper mache.
Oh,
I noticed that Brad works with his hands, but not right now.
It's almost got it.
Andrew's got one.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Should be rolling.
Oh, yeah.
Just like downtown. So, thank you for having me for this. I'm so happy to support you. You're an awesome person.
Thank you.
I thought I'd read this one. I love this picture in my head. The front door of the Rusty Pelican was made out of the hulls of some old boats. Dad pulled open the double door, and there it was in all of its glory, crab pots and old scuba masks, big spheres with glass, so much brass inside, but also white linens, waiters and tuxedos, and light soft jazz pipe to the whole place. And above it all, outside, were the broken planks of wood up top that said Rusty Pelican. Dad did that embarrassing thing that he did at restaurants where he'd whistle at whoever took the fish something. Be it waiter or busboy, if that didn't work, he'd snap his fingers. He had no idea how bad it felt, Dad ordering the whole goddamn world around. When somebody did finally come and escort us back towards the window with a full view of Biscayne Bay, it was to a three-place round table so we could see the lights coming on from the boats all around, and the lights up to the bridge going back to the Miami mainland. On the walls were stapled relics of sea stuff, mermaids, treasure chests, crab pots, crab nets, and old sea captain made out of wood. Me and Dad in the empty place setting, fork and a knife and a white tablecloth. This is Nora, Dad said. You're gonna love her. And wouldn't you know, Nora wasn't the first woman who walked in. We had to sit through older ladies walking in, ladies that looked half dead. And then there was the one. I knew she was the one because Dad, the way his spine held up his back and his frame, he was relaxed for the first time in like 5 years. But there was something about her, something to make you believe in things like people actually having the ability to glow. Her face, her hair, she had a golden air about her that threw off the rest of the fake shabbiness that was the Rusty Pelican. This woman, some people you meet just have something about them. They wear their joy outward, and that was who she was. And the more I wanted to hate her, the more I realized I couldn't. She smelled too nice. And she had that kind of smile that told me she was really a happy person. And that had nothing to do with the amount of jewelry she was wearing or how much Dad was making back then. No. You could just tell this Nora, she was the real deal. Dad put his hand on my shoulder. It was obviously a put on for show. That hand of his felt heavier than that day and down in the highway overpass. Seeing her for the first time felt like the three of us could maybe one day turn into something. Jay, Dad said, for the first time since I had known him, he wasn't in a hurry. Dad enjoyed the spaces and the breath between my name and hers. Meet Nora. Nora, this is Jay, my son. And for a second, he even sounded proud. There was something about the way Nora carried her body, her shoulders, the way her breasts pushed up and out of her black cocktail dress. She had this necklace across her chest, and a necklace that looked like 4 stepping stones. Those stones had this slippery, wet finish to them. I wanted to see for myself if they were actually wet. There was this opening to her, a space in her life to let me in. Dad couldn't just let a moment be a moment. I just met her, and of course he had a phone call to take back in the lobby. Some business call that meant once again he was leaving me alone with somebody. Once, only this time, with someone that wanted the responsibility. And yeah, those stones about her breasts after meeting Kiki, I had a place in my body to send those feelings to. Oh honey, Nora said to Dad, that's okay, we have so much to catch up on, don't we, Jay? I mean, I don't even know if you have a girlfriend. Her there underneath crab pots and crab traps, those wet-looking stones over the tops of her breasts. The glow that was a no shit, honest to God glow. I didn't even know if she was coming on to me or she was trying to be my mom. I'm not here to win you over, she said, put her hand on the empty seat next to me, signaling me to come over and sit where Dad was. I slid over and she made a space for me, put her arm around me and pulled me in tight. Those wet stones, they weren't wet. It was an illusion, a trick of the night. I'm not here to be your mother, she said. She looked down at me, super gentle. Unlike so many others, she meant it. She meant it so much. It threw me off guard. I was here, trying not to fall for it too much, and then she goes and mentions wow. I got to the point that when people mentioned Mom, I didn't get a clear picture of her in my head anymore. Well, I'm awful sorry about all that, she said. Nora with blue eyes and makeup and breasts went all the way up and out like they were right there. When she said it, she meant it with her whole being. She said it took a strong person to be able to go through that. She said that that's what I was. She called me a tough guy. A little smile across her face. There was a little bit of a sneaky kid in there. The thing you need to do is relax. The sound of the bliss. She poured a few sips of her white wine into my empty glass. The wine, when I took a sip, was cold and sweet and made a warm burn in my chest. She put her hand on mine. What worries me the most is about how you feel about your dad, she said. He loves you, you know that? I know the whole him walking away from you and putting Cliff in charge of you disappoints you. And I get it, but your dad needed room to make his business take off, and that's what he's done.
Sure.
We have our purple. See, right, we're in Gigi Little because we're watching those people.
You did.
That's what they draw little eyes.
But we just want to take this all out.
I love that part that you just read. Because I love the complications of all the relationships, right? And the dad that's not there as dad, and Cliff who comes in, and then this lower person who, Jay's like so confused. He's this young kid starting to get aware of sexuality but not knowing what that is. It's just, you did such a beautiful job on the page of showing these complicated people, but just letting them talk to each other and letting them be in scene together. And we get to experience them.
Make it sound like it was easy, right? But yeah.
A lot of balls in the air.
Yeah, it is. It's
Propinquity and going vertical.
Step back and step up.
Step
Yeah,
back.
there's lots of that. Oh, step back and step up. Like hold the microphone away from your mouth. Step back and step up. Okay, horizontal and vertical. Horizontal is the plot, right? Linear. The vertical is perspective, is voice, is being able to talk about and reflect on what's going on and what has happened so far and what might happen in the future. Yeah. So that's kind of what. So like I didn't know it then, but so that's kind of the step in, the step back, step up voice, if you will. When you record that. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I think that is a really great place for us to land and let people ask you questions.
Sounds
But
great.
first, I have to say, I love you so much, and I love this book, and I'm so grateful to get to do this and do it.
Thank you, Tom.
I think it's great. Well, here, here's some questions you have.
I might just turn the microphone
Yeah,
off.
maybe.
Yeah. Questions? Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, Jake.
So, I'm almost done with it, but something I've noticed is, like what you're saying, giving perspective on what the character is doing in the moment.
Yes.
Did you find that helpful with the writing process, coming from not just where the character is at in that present moment, but also having reflection in the paragraphs? Like, I could see that being, it's just a different style of writing that I just haven't seen before, and so versus dealing with the feelings that you felt in the present or with that character's feeling in the present and sticking with that, you feel like adding the perspective of what you know now into the writing was helpful in the process.
So much so. And I find that it was really healing in that way because it was literally reprogramming. Because I'm taking traumatic events that I experienced and putting a spin on them. Because Tom always talked about, like, a lot of Tom's books and stuff that he would write about would be stuff that's mostly true, but there'd be one or two fictional things. And he said fiction is the lie that tells the truth truer. It's the thing that Tom always used to say about that. So I get some narrative distance apart from my life, and then I can start to use art to control the narrative, and this time I get to be in control of the story and not, instead of life being in control of me, which is the way it was. And so I think just doing that, it's a way to take care of the reader so that they know what's going on in the story, and it makes it feel like a real person even though it's fiction. But it's also therapeutic for everyone involved, the writer, the creator, the audience, everybody in the story.
Okay.
Great question, Jay.
You have a request back here, just to repeat questions so that everybody back here can hear what the original question was.
Yes, the original question was about step back and step up, and what did that add to the book?
Yeah, like the creative process and adding both perspective of the character in the present and the perspective as the writer reflecting in that same paragraph. That made it easier writing process. I haven't seen that style of writing before, so that was very reflecting on what you're saying would be healing too, is you are rewriting your own narrative of what happened and the healing shows.
Yeah.
Can you relay that? Because back here.
Oh, you can't hear a thing. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Basically, it was like she could see how writing that employs step back and step up, and writing about what happened in the past and through the lens of like the future and fiction and narrative, and rewriting that, and she could see how that was healthy or healing, and she hadn't really encountered writing like that previously.
Yeah. And it's what Tom called the redemptive voice.
Yes,
And
right.
pretty much it's how he opted was writing.
Right, and the redemptive voice was the voice knows the entire story. Like, you might not read the entire story, but the voice knows all that's happened and can go deep and far and wide in the story that way.
Did you find like that while you were writing it that you had to disguise that at any point, like from what you know now and the feelings that you have for your father? Did you have any of that like creeping in, like to get, because you stayed so much in the story,
Right.
and you didn't really stray out. So the redemptive voice there, you disguised it.
Right, yeah, and there was also other elements. There was a whole criminal, like underworld element that I cut. So I think once I learned a lot from cutting a lot and then rewriting things that weren't working, like voices that were trying to do step back and step up, but weren't really delivering all the goods. And it was just working on refining all that took a lot of time.
How long did it take you to write this book?
2010 to 2018, so 8 years. Yeah. And then like 5 years of rejection and then getting it accepted and then rewriting it again or doing changes and everything else. Yeah. So so I like to tell the story. When I was first starting the book, it was 2010. The World Cup was in South Africa, I think. It was the first time I ever saw Lionel Messi play. And my youngest was a baby, and I would put her on my, over my shoulder. She would be nursing, and I would bring her upstairs and watch that and write, and with her on my. And now she's a 15-year-old, and she's reading the book right now. So it's like, it's a really cool thing, you know. She's like, oh, yep. The mom found out about the tapes today, and I'm like, Yeah, it's pretty fabulous, I must say. Yeah.
Hey. I'll try to project. I don't know. I've been talking all day though, so. Adam, when I was listening to all of the excerpts tonight, you're a photographer and an artist as well as a writer, and you deal so much in lights. And listening to all of these excerpts felt like looking through light through a filter, right? Like, some of the imagery around the pool and the limousine and stuff. Like, I had these very, very, I don't know, like light-centric thoughts. And I couldn't help but think about, like, for you, and I know it's a work of fiction, I don't want to make too much of the autobiographical element of it,
right.
But I know for you in writing this book, the way that memory works, right, is you're trying to remember all of these events that happen in what feels like prehistory. And that can be like a filter, shining light through a filter into your past. And I'm curious, this is a very long way to ask you a question, which is, what was revealed to you about yourself through writing this? I know that's a big one.
What was that all?
Get a second.
It's okay, he's one of my best friends. Perfect question, I love it. Oh, what did I learn about myself through the process?
Yeah, and this is a yes or no question.
The answer is 4. No, I learned that, Tom used to always say, it's just like, all your stuff is just so imagistic. And it's so, if I had a style back then, and when I was writing this book, it would have been like imaginistic, or imagistic the musical, or imagistic on ice, or something like that. Yeah, because it would have been the Follies was probably more like it. Yeah. So I learned that I have a particular style. My sense of humor kind of came through in some of the places. I think sometimes if I'm not having a good time in life, people can be around me and be like, they can forget that I have a sense of humor sometimes. I don't know. So maybe it reminds myself of that. I don't know if I learned anything about myself. It was coming up with, I love to set my stories in Florida for some strange reason. Because it's a good place to tell a story, but I don't want to live there. If I'm that far, talk about narrative distance, 5,000 miles away almost. 4 and change, so I don't know. It's hard to answer those. Hard to answer that question. Come over on Saturday and we'll talk for 4.5 hours and maybe we'll get to eat. If they didn't change the subject about 500 times. Sometimes people are like, I can't keep up with you two, I'm out of years. So thanks, Nate. Yeah. Andrew.
Okay, I haven't read the book yet, but I'm curious how you and Jay differ. Like what are, or maybe you're the
Sure.
but like what decisions did Jay make that you and how much of yourself is
Yeah.
Jay?
I would say Jay is the hurt and he is a lot of the stuff a lot of the bad stuff I felt in the 80s. And Jay is more of a catastrophist than I am. And Jay has a hard time taking things or seeing humor in things. And he thinks of himself as a complete victim. It sounds like victim. It sounds like I'm describing myself before I met my wife, actually. But yes, that's. You just made me realize that. So that's another thing.
That's what they
So yeah, that's one of the ways. One thing that's very similar is there's parts in the book where he makes a conscious choice to do the wrong thing, and I remember making those decisions when I was growing up. Like sometimes not so good decisions. Like I'm going to do this thing that's going to hurt somebody, and yeah, not proud of myself at all for that. But that would be one of the ways. It's a hard one to answer, but he's just as much of a music fan as I am, and he's got a lot of nervous energy like I always have, maybe still have, and his mind is like 3 times faster than his tongue, so his mind is always racing and his tongue's always like struggling to catch up. And I stuttered for a long time. Like you heard a little stutter a few minutes ago, that was like that I used to be a lot when I was growing up. So the way I overcame that was to join theater and to play on stage. It was like, that's it, I'm standing up on stage and making a complete ass out of myself in front of 300 people. Like that's how I'm gonna overcome this.
Okay, how about one more question and then there's time for discussion books.
You haven't spoken about this too much except for just now. I know that when you were writing the book, there was so much about music, and we just heard about ELO, Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah.
Talk about a little bit how, because music was a huge part of it, and how is it now for you? How does that relate to you? And
music.
Jay and you relate to music then?
Oh yeah. Well, to Jay and me, we're both completely musically obsessed. For me, growing up, I spent a lot of time by myself as a kid. So music was definitely, I spent a lot of time drawing and writing stories and listening to music. And so music did a lot of heavy lifting for me. I found out about a lot of experiences that other people had through music, and I was always using my imagination. I used to come up with this like rock band called Exit that was like Buckaroo I saw Buckaroo Banzai and I was like, I have a vision. So I was that kind of kid. But I know I'm totally off the topic about music. Music has always been central to writing for me. It's what opened the door. Once I start and it was MTV actually helped. I read a lot as a kid, but I also used to watch music videos, and I used to, when I would hear music and then I wouldn't be watching music videos, I would create music videos in my head. And then I would create movies in my head when I'd be like in the back of the dinghy, like looking up in Biscayne Bay as like my dad's boats. You know, I want to be alone and I want to just tell myself stories. And once I figured I could do that, it was a really cool thing. And I could have different voices that would read those stories. Yeah, but anyway.
Do you listen to music when you write now?
No, try to do it quiet, because when I'm writing now, like right now I'm writing the second draft of my second novel, and I'm trying to keep all the balls in the air because from the first draft, and what do I want to keep from the first and the second. And so I don't really listen to music when I'm writing anymore because I really need to concentrate. And these days it's so hard to concentrate that I feel like I got to do it quiet. And I also host Songbook. Songbook is my reading series where people write pieces about specific songs and then we listen to songs. So music and writing to me have been, I used to write music reviews for different websites for a while, so like it's always something that I'm drawn to.
I love that image of you in the boat. I'm like, that's where little vibrant artist was born right there. You know, that's gorgeous. Well, I believe that school is open until 9. Great, keep going.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that
Please
was-
open until 9.
So there, you have time to come up so you can get an ad book, have them sign it. You still have time to grab a cup of coffee. We really want to thank Allie for hosting this evening.
Thank you.
That was for you.
That was for you,
That was for
Allie.
you.
All that applause. Thank you for hosting
Thank you
us.
for hosting.
Thank you to Annie for interviewing me. Thank you to Domi and Brad and Gigi and all my dangerous writing people.
And say something.
Also to thank the staff of both Coffee and Books as well. That's so helpful. To the Heritage High School wing of both 2 current employees and 4 former students. So those guys are doing that. Thank you all so much. It means so much to me that this is the last promotional event for Bella Vista. Also, at the same time, just to kind of bring this up, I was contacting Allie about a date for this reading, and we talked about dates, and she said, I always like to do mine on a Saturday. I always do songbooks on Saturday. And she's like, what about Friday? Because it was going to be the next Steve Arndt Spanbauerian. And so that's why I was like, I'll do it, but I'll do it with some table folks. And we'll bring the Spanbauerian in the honor to Steve, who we love dearly. So thank you.